Kyle here from All Media Reviews. Shout out to the channel that I really like. I interact with them a fair amount. I comment on their videos here and there. The guys in Taste Like Music, they did a review of... They have Patreons. I'm not a part of the Patreons for various reasons, you know. Gotta be... If I was giving contributions to every Patreon that I could, if I won the Powerball, I would be on 186 Patreons probably. But anyway, someone in the Patreon... You know, props to them, they'd request albums, of course, and requested Mutemath's debut album. And they did a review of it, and I don't think they knew him, but they didn't know him that well, but they weren't thrilled with it. But, you know, it got me thinking about Mutemath again. I did a video about them a couple years ago. A band that's not around anymore. We're kind of, you know, hoping, anticipating Paul Meany will put out a solo album at some point, and then Darren King played on the his wife's... Sucre album last year, but anyway, so it got me thinking, you know, Mutemath, I love Mutemath, I loved, you know, their album, they had a great catalog, and even though the guys didn't go crazy, they thought they were okay, they did not compare them to the Police or Sting, but it got me thinking, one thing about Mutemath that definitely is almost universal is their live. So, talking about Mutemath again, sorry about that, so they're just at least one thing that's considered by, you know, as like just a fantastic live band. So and they were. And so what I thought about doing is not just Mutemath, just coming up with a list of. I mean, I just saw Mayor Hawthorne the other night. I've seen 520 concerts or something like that, approximately. But there's certain acts that, you know, definitely stand out that I saw many times, multiple times. Now, these aren't necessarily my favorite bands or favorite all-time live acts necessarily, they're just among them. So I thought I'd put out, I think it's 6. I came up with 6 bands really, and I could do more of these. And I'd love to hear who are your top 5 bands that you've seen. I would say the qualification has to be you have to have seen them more than once, and they had to have blown you away more than once. So the first one I'll say is Mutemath. I saw them 7 times, and 7 times as a headliner actually. I know they actually had opened... I don't know if they opened for Dredge, but... Anyway, I caught on slightly after they had been touring, but before their debut album came out. And they just... I saw them at the Fine Line. I saw them at the Ascot Room. Yes, the first time I did, I saw them at the Ascot Room. And Vedera opened. And Vedera had opened for Dredge. That was one of the connections. But... Because I liked Vedera, too. But then I saw them at the Fine Line, I think, twice. And I saw them at the headline and Under the Influence of Giants opened for one of those shows. That was a fantastic show. But then they played at the Barfly, which is a little bit bigger than the Fine Line. And then they played First Avenue. I want to say I saw them at least 3 times there. Every one of them, every single one of those shows was crazy good. I mean, it wasn't moshing exactly. It was a little bit. This was not, you know, your Lollapalooza horde. This was not you know, slam dancing, that kind of stuff, like hardcore dancing. But it at some point tried to be. But the thing about it is, the singer, Paul Meany, and the band all did these group drum jams. They got the crowd so involved. Paul did a bunch of crowd surfing. And in every one of them, the First Avenue arguably was probably the best in some ways because it was a bigger facility. They had like a mattress he was sitting on. He did the whole, like, balancing on his keyboard at one point, I think, and they were a can't-miss band live. Every freaking show. I mean, I honestly don't know if I can pick one, other than the first one, because I'd never seen them, and I didn't know how good they were. And I was just getting into them. But that's the most sentimental one. That was in 2006. I believe it was before this came out, or it was right when... Well, it came out in 2006. It was right when it came out. Around that time. I think it was when it came out independently. Because I think they had even toured their first EP. From the members had been in the band Ursu, which I've never seen, although never listened to, but they have a bit of a Christian element. But they had a little bit of a rap element, I guess, too, but experimental pop rock. But, yeah, Mutemath, oh my god. They played at, like, one of the arenas on one of those, like, group tours. That would have been interesting to see them try to do their thing in front of that massive of a crowd. But, no, they were just, they were epic. It was epic and crazy and energetic and dynamic. The group drum jams were just fantastic. Darren King, he would tape his headphones, duct tape his headphones to his head. He was just pounding so heavy, so hard on those drums. So, all right, so the second one I'm going to spotlight, and it was right around just after that time. And most of these are going to be shows I probably saw in the 2000s and the 2010s a little bit, but not entirely. But you know, my concert career, attendance career, generally started in the mid 90s or whatever. Rush and Steve Miller Band and Sting and Van Halen, but no, it was Fair to Midland. Saw them, I counted 11 times in the span of 5 years, 4 years, 5 years. They frequently came here, and just in 2007 alone, they came to Minneapolis 4 times. But the only thing about their shows is that they were awesome, epic shows, just like Mutemath. The singer Darrow would hang from the lights, and he would just go crazy. Their shows were never long. I mean, for better or for worse. The longest show I think they ever played was a little over an hour, but most of their shows were like 50 minutes. And as much as they put into it, I'm not surprised. At least once, maybe twice, they played the whole Fables from a Mayfly album from 2007. But, yeah, it was so, even though I saw them play a lot of these songs almost every show, Darrow was such a soaring vocalist. Cliff just got so into it. They had these little improv sections in the middle sometimes, even though, again, they were short, they weren't long shows. It's kind of less is more, and more is more at the same time. They had a few different times they had that DJ from 93X, I forget his name, Pablo, I think his name was, pimping them and, got the crowd totally into it. They played the Varsity Theater, I think, 2 or 3 times. They played the Fine Line. They opened for Darren Gray. That was crazy because the Darren Gray fans are crazy themselves. That, that heavy J metal, extreme hardcore metal. And they played Station 4, I want to say, once or twice. They played The Rock. I saw them at probably 7 or 8 different places. The Varsity was probably the one I had the most sentimentality. I thought of their performances, the 2 or 3 they had at the Varsity Theater. They played with the Varsity, actually, I think one of the shows might have been with Carnival. Because I know they did a tour with Carnival, but also Dead Letter Circus was at one of the shows. I just kept on seeing them. It was it only was a span of from 2007 to 2012 or 11, 12. 11 times. I mean, they weren't from here, but there wasn't one boring show. In fact, some of the bands on this list had 1 or 2 that wasn't at that same level. Fair to Midland never had a bad show, never had a half-ass show, and they played some stuff that wasn't on this. Of course, they played some of the tracks from Inner Fun of Stifle, and they were playing a lot of the stuff that ended up on Arrows and Anchors, Rikki Tikki Tavi and Musical Chairs and everything. We got to hear some of that stuff debuted, but yeah, they were a crazy live band. I would love to see them come back someday, but Fair to Midland, number 2. And this isn't a ranking again. This is just, I made a list. They're number 1 in terms of the number of shows I saw among all these. So the next one I'm spotlighting is the band 3. Now, I only have seen the 3 4 times, maybe? Yes, I saw them 4, and then I saw Joey Appard solo once. They're unbelievably energetic live. They have the live album Half-Life, which has a lot of music that didn't even get recorded. Studio versions weren't even recorded. I mean, I think it probably has a Maze Disgrace, the 15-plus minutes. But, oh my God, I mean, the first time I saw them at the Entry, and I knew about them beforehand. I saw them at the Entry, and they do group drum jams, and it's just this stream of consciousness energy that's just unmatched. It's unbelievable. But I think actually, and they did a tour with Porcupine Tree and were flooring the Porcupine Tree crowd. And then when they ended up on Progressive Nation in 2008 with Dream Theater and Opeth, and Between the Buried and Me, all the reviews leading up to the show I saw just could not stop talking about how great they were. How just the energy was so great. I mean, you compare them to Mutemath or Fair to Midland, say that they're at the same level, if not higher. The drums, jams, some of those songs, what's that track? The track Brahma Futura, which is like the flamenco thing that Joey does. It's just so good. The stream of consciousness. Some of these tracks the end the end has begun. But I mean, I only saw them the 4 times. One of the times was with Cynic. That was, I think, the last time I saw them, and they didn't headline that show. So I saw them as sort of an opener a couple times and a headliner twice. I'm trying to remember. I saw them Station 4 with Cynic. I saw them as a with they played with, was it Tub Ring? They were headline at the entry. That was the first time. The Progressive Nation, there was one other time I saw them, and then I saw Joey Upper down in Rochester for the celebration for his grandfather. But yeah, three were just unbelievable. I like Coed and Cambria, but 3 is a different animal live. Anyway, all right, so that's the third, number 3. So the fourth one I'm going to spotlight, there's a couple different reasons beyond my own personal attachment and love for them. All right, so the one I'm spotlighting with next is Hours. There's been a couple Hours shows, and I've seen them, I think, a total of 8 times. They opened for Marilyn Manson once. They opened for Dredge, or they were like the middle band. I saw them headline after the last 2023 and 2022, like the 6th and 7th, or 7th and 8th time I saw them headline. Like the 5th and 6th time I saw them headline. But I think the opening slots were good. They were good, you know, but where they really shine in a couple of those shows, the one at the Fine Line, I think I saw them twice at the Fine Line Hours. And they may not, because they're going to be doing like residencies. I don't know how much we're going to get of Ours. And Jimmy Necco actually is filling in for this as a singer of this group called the Humanists, who's opening for Depeche Mode in Europe the next few months, next month and a half. He's a singer in demand, but you know his music itself isn't always necessarily. But I think it was the first or second time I saw them headline in town here. They played, and this was in like 2007. They played many times before I even knew about them. He's been a road warrior his whole life, basically, or the last 25 years, Jimmy Necco. I got to join them on stage, you know, and they were doing group drum jams. They didn't do those that many times. They did it at the Fine Line when I joined them on stage. I was doing some drumming with some posters, and Jimmy called me up. And then the next show at the Varsity Theater, oddly, they did some of the group drum jams. That show didn't have the energy that the show at the Fine Line did. I think there were 2 of them. I counted, you know, 8 times I saw them. But the 2 or 3 times that they were at, they're unbelievably good. The last 2 shows at the Amsterdam were good. A little loud. Actually, I've got the headaches as I trace back to that in July, unfortunately. But, you know, I mean, from a set list standpoint, I enjoyed a lot of those shows. And the band's great. I think the band actually are probably tighter now than those shows I even loved. But those shows they did the drum jams, oh man, you know, those are special, and I'll never forget the energy. And they got the photo of myself doing that. So that's the fourth one. So, all right, so number 5, and then I got 2 as sort of that go kind of together in a way. But the next one is, I've only seen them 3 times. I didn't see them the last time they were in town here. The band Foals. I had a ticket to see them the same night I saw Mutemath at the Varsity Theater. They were at the entry, and Janelle Monáe was opening for Of Montreal in the main room at First Avenue. I had a ticket. I didn't go to. I would have loved to have seen that show. Oh my god, to see Foals in a smaller venue, that I missed my opportunity on that. But I wanted to see Brent Knopf with Mutemath. I had to choose. But I've seen them 3 times at First Avenue. They just played at the Fillmore. You know, I didn't see that show, but the 3 shows I saw them, and I may have missed one. I don't think I did, but I may have missed one. But the 3 shows I did see them over the last, it's like 6 years or 7 years. I think it was like 2015, 2016, the first time I saw them. It was 13. And it was I was maybe going back to 13. They were fantastic. A little bit like Mutemath, playing to the crowd. Jonas, whatever his name, the lead singer, lead guitarist, was walking out into the crowd and up into the balcony area where I was sitting, actually. Every show he did that, I think. He went out to the crowd every show and was crowd surfing. Much like Mutemath. I mean, it's not identical to Mutemath, but 2 Steps Twice, and there's one other song that off of Antidotes that is just an absolute banger from an energy standpoint. Their energy is just crazy, and First Avenue's given them a great platform. I mean, I would have loved to have seen 3 at First Avenue in the main room, but yeah, Foals are. I mean, I probably should have gone. It's a matter of weighing. I can't go to every concert, but the 3 times I saw them are up there among the greatest, or my favorite. I don't say greatest. My favorite 3 concerts I've ever seen. They're a band that I definitely want to see again. So the 2 that I was, I thought I'd pull the CD. No, I did not. Well, oh yeah, no, I know why, because I have it over here. I wanted to show the vinyl. See if I can track it down. Right here. So, one is local natives and the other is annuals. And this whole BS about when local natives showed up, everyone compared them to Fleet Foxes and Grizzly Bear and, oops, not John Anderson. Love John Anderson. But the annuals are the band, to me, that local natives reminded me most. And especially if you consider live, because the members of local natives even cited that. So, I'll go with annuals first, and then I'll talk about local natives. But annuals, I saw 3 times, I think it was. Yes, and they were unfortunately all. Maybe one time was a headliner, 2 times was opening. They opened for Minus the Bear. They opened for like the Helios sequence. They did the group drum jams, the tribal drum jams too, and it was awesome. Kind of Wallace sound-ish, very tribal, very jungle-like. But they also were very trippy and very, prog 8 Points. They're all Yes fans, annuals. They had they're not around anymore, unfortunately. But, yeah, I mean, they just, their studio albums are good, but they're better, even better live. The other thing I got to do with them is that I got to see I had a ticket for them, or maybe I didn't, but I knew they were playing at the Varsity Theater. I think they were headlining. But I had gotten on the guest list for Death Clock, and I talked to Mike Keneally. Mike Keneally had a connection he played with Kevin Gilbert at one point. So I went to the Death Clock show at the same time as their show at the Varsity Theater. But I stopped in at the Varsity Theater because there was a few hours to kill, and actually managed to watch their sound check, and the door was open. It was awesome. I was telling them about Death Clock, and it's like, we should skip the show and go to Death Clock. Actually, the same night I went to see Battles with White Williams at the Fine Line. So I was at that. That was one of my greatest concert jump nights ever. So I got 3 shows and then a sound check, and but the drum jam. I mean, I'm a sucker for energetic group drum jams, and they're also in that same category. So local natives, you talk to, I think it's Taylor Rice, Taylor or Kelsey. Kelsey is one of the 2 from local natives. Completely, I asked them. It's like, oh yeah, we kind of were fans of annuals, and we thought that would be a cool thing to incorporate into our set. So they've done that. They did it the show I saw last summer. I first saw them when they were known as Caldwell at Rest. They didn't do so much of it then, but I love Caldwell at Rest. There was only like 10 people at the first station, at Station 4 rather. But then they changed their name, of course. I saw them open for Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros, and they just to me, they destroyed them at the Varsity Theater for this album, before Gorilla Manor had come out. And I saw them, a grand total of, so I saw them 3 other times. So 3 times headlining at First Avenue. And I don't know if they do as much of the drum jams as they used to do, but they have that jungle element, that tribal sort of rhythmic emphasis where you get 3 or 4 members of the band playing those I don't know what kind of drums they are exactly, tom drums or whatever, and then the crowd gets into it. And so, given the fact we don't have some of these bands live like 3, they kind of, and annuals, they've kind of at least compensated with that. And well, the same night Extreme played down the road, and I've never seen Extreme at the Skyway Theater. I did get to finally see them again. I'd missed a few of their shows, but so that's my my top. Would it be? Or that'd be 5, or that'd be 6 of my favorite live acts. Again, I'd love to see what you would put down as your top 3, 5, or 5 of your 5 or 6 of your favorite live bands. Again, the caveat is they had to have blown you away at least twice. Which ours, like I said, I love them. They had a few shows they didn't necessarily blow me away, but they had too many shows that they did. They had more than one that they fit into this. And again, I'm a sucker for these energetic, rhythmic, almost danceable, the energy that comes up when I watch some of these bands. But again, thank you for watching. Please subscribe, leave a comment, ring the notification bell, and we'll see you next time.